All right. Good morning. Welcome to Tech Tuesday. My name is Jeff Berger, and I think this is probably our fifth Tech Tuesday. Each Tuesday we go over a product or application and give everybody some training online, especially with everybody being remote these days and working out of the remote offices or home offices and such. We're going to continue doing this training. I'm going to actually send an update out after today's training, which is going to add on some application training, such as PID fundamentals, control, process tuning. We'll probably do some FireEye and Flame Safeguard from Honeywell training. So be on the lookout for that update as we complete this training course here. But today we're going to spend some time discussing the Honeywell paperless recorders and why they're used, what applications they're used in, and talk a little bit about the feature set of the recorders so that when you're in your plant or if you're servicing a customer, you can be on the lookout for different applications that could help you out in the plant or your customer retrieve information that might be critical to the process. So the first question a lot of people usually ask is why do you need data recording? I mean, why is that so important? Well, in today's age, the data that your customers are requiring are pretty critical to the operations. A lot of times this data is being used in the heat treating or manufacturing of aerospace products, pharmaceutical. It could be wastewater, it could be chemical, but the data is pretty important these days, and we've really moved away from the paper recording of the old days where you take the paper off the chart recorder and you go and you stuff it in a file folder somewhere, and then good luck trying to retrieve that in a timely manner when one of your customers come in and ask for it, unless you have a real good filing system. But in today's age, with the video recorders, it allows very easy and quick access to the data, and allows for you to be able to use the data in quality control as well. So it gives you a historical record, records the process for quality, so you can make process improvements, and then obviously certification. Some of the challenges that the data recording can present customers or processes out in the plant is the first one is accurate and reliable data. A lot of times on the old pen dragging type recorders, you could have a pen that got hung up or a pen that ran out of ink, and being able to provide reliable data on a pen dragging recorder sometimes can be a little bit of a challenge. With the paperless recorders, you don't have to worry about that. So you have a paperless means of recording the traces on the chart, and it's digitally stored on a hard drive inside the recorder. The other challenge with some of the old recording devices is visually seeing the process or visualizing the process. So in today's age, when we have one single operator maybe operating many different applications or processes within the plant, it's good to give that operator several different views of that process data, or possibly even a graphic visualization of the process, so that they can really accurately take a look at the data in a quick manner and be able to make decisions based on what that data is presenting them. The documentation for regulatory compliance, this is always in the past has been a very manual intervention. Customers had to basically take a look at the old paper graphs and manually transpose that data into a report or some other media in order to give to the compliance agency. That can take a ton of time in doing that manual intervention there. The last thing is secure data. So in today's world, you need to make sure when you have data that's being recorded that it's being recorded in a secure fashion and it's tamper resistant. So a lot of the times when we went out and talked to customers when these recorders first came out many years ago, the first thing they would ask is, well, can somebody go in and mess with that data now that it's being put onto a hard drive or some other reporting fashion? And the answer is no, it can't be tampered with. The data is very secure. It's recorded in an encrypted fashion with the new paperless recorders, and you cannot get into it and mess with the data and change the data. So that was the one thing that needed to be very clear moving forward for customers, is that a paperless recorder does have secure data. The typical applications, which we're going to get into in a little bit here, typical applications that you might see a recorder on: drying ovens, environmental monitoring like incinerators, fermentation processes, flow monitoring, freeze drying, retorts and cooking process. Very, very critical for the FDA and other compliances that are important to the food and drug applications. Sintering furnaces, heat treat furnaces, virtually any process that you need to gather data that's critical can be applied with these recorders. So the paperless recorders meeting the needs of some of the some of the issues out in the applications that we talked about. First of all, being able to process the data visually. On the paperless recorders, there's several different pre-formatted screens that you can get: circular chart, strip chart, bar graphs, digital values. Makes it very easy to visualize the data. The data is secure. You can also do data replay, and back in the days when you used to have the old strip chart, roll chart type recorders where you had to open the recorder door, take out that chart paper, and unravel it in order to find your data. In today's world, with the paperless recorders, it makes it very simple. These are all touch screens, so basically when you're on a screen that you want to see old data, you put your finger on the screen and swipe it from left to right. It's just like your phone or your tablet, where you can actually put your finger on the screen and move graphics around and stuff like that. It's the same thing with the recorder. So as you put your screen up and you're visualizing a trend screen, you can move your finger from right to left, and you can actually bring up the old data that you want to be able to take a look at. The recorders provide the customers with process monitoring and recording. It's a very simple infrastructure, and it also gives you tools to analyze the process data that's being recorded, and allows you to be able to assemble data in a very quick manner for your customers when they're asking for data back from 1990 and they want to see August 1st through August 7th. It allows you to pull up the data very quickly, and you don't have to go through large folders or filing cabinets to find that data. The Honeywell graphic recorders, there's a series or a family of graphic recorders. The first one is the Easy Trend, which is really a entry-level type recorder. We're going to get into each one of these, but it goes from the Easy Trend, the Mini Trend, Multitrend, which is a 12-inch display, and then the DR graphic recorder, which is actually a replacement for a circular chart recorder, pen dragger that you might have out in the plant. There's several different software tools that we're going to go through. There's a screen designer software in case you want to use some special graphics or graphics of the application and you want to impose that on the screen of the graphic recorder. Allows you to do some special graphic assembly. Trend Manager Suite, which is a suite of software that allows you to grab the data from the recorder, provide that data imported to a PC, and it allows you to print it out or store it on that PC or server for later retrieval. And then the last is the database tool, which allows you to take the database folders or the recorded information and move it around to different folders within a network. It might be a server. Maybe you want to store that data from the local PC to a server for large data transfers. So we're going to go through each one of these recorders here on a couple screens just to talk a little bit about the differences between each one of these. As we were stating, the EasyTrend recorder, EasyTrend GR, and again, Honeywell is great for acronyms, so GR stands for graphic recorder. This is an entry-level type recorder. It's a 5.7-inch display. You can do up to 3 to 12 analog inputs. So the base model comes with 3, and you can expand it up to 12. All of the analog inputs on these recorders are universal. So you can be a high level or low level input. And when I say that, the high level would be your 4 to 20, 1 to 5, 0 to 10. And then the low level will be your thermocouples, RTDs. And they're universal, so you can program those through the front face of the recorder. We'll show you a little bit about the recorder configuration tools here in a little bit, but it's very easy to use and allows you to very quickly go in and configure your inputs. The EasyTrend graphic recorder is a touch panel display. It has 320 by 240 resolution, and it comes with a lot of the standard displays that the other larger style recorders come with. But it's a very nice entry-level type recorder if a customer has a simple process that they're looking to add paperless recording on. The next step up from that's the Multitrend GR. That's a 5.7-inch display again, but now you can go up to 16 analog inputs, and it gives you a resolution on the screen of 640 by 480. Multitrend GR recorder is the next step up, which is the 12.1-inch display. It has XGA display, 1024 by 768 resolution, and you can go up to 48 analog inputs hardwired into the Multitrend, although there is a communication option where you can actually communicate up to the 64 values into that recorder. The DR graphic recorder is a circular chart style recorder. This recorder can replace some of the older Honeywell circular chart recorders like the DR 4300 or the DR 4500 TrueLine recorder, and fits into the same cutout as those style recorders. This recorder can handle up to 16 analog inputs, and it can be either mounted on a wall or it could be mounted into a control cabinet. A lot of times where we see the DR graphic recorders, circular charts being used are for like batch applications, like in a heat treat facility where you might have a batch oven or a batch application. Also used a lot in the wastewater industry, where they're recording pH values and other values within the wastewater plant. Some of the unique features of the recorders, we'll just go through these real quick here, but I'm going to point out some of the more important ones. The displays on the recorders actually has a capability for remote view and control. So in today's operations, where you might have a plant manager that wants to see the data from home, or you might have operations that are just remote because either one, it's not suitable for an operator to be in that area from a safety standpoint, or you might have one operator operating multiple applications within the plant, and you want to have quick and easy access to those displays from a remote standpoint. So on the recorders, there is a remote view control option, which is password protected, but allows you to view it from a PC that's on the same network as the graphic recorder in the plant. The other real neat feature of the recorder is the fuzzy logging. In each one of these recorders, it does log the data to a storage drive inside of the recorder. And after a period of time, depending on how fast you're logging the data, that storage can get full, and it will start overwriting the oldest data. In order to maximize the storage inside the recorder, they have a thing called fuzzy logging. And I know that that terminology is kind of funny because, I don't know, it's just funny. The fuzzy logging allows you to, when the process data is very stable and is not changing, the fuzzy logging will actually take sample rates at a much slower interval. And as the recorder sees the data starting to change it will start logging data at a quicker interval. And it does this automatically. So if you have a process that's not very disruptive and it's not moving, then you can enable the fuzzy logging, and it will greatly increase the amount of storage that you have on your hard drive. The scan time on these recorders is very quick. You can have up to 20 millisecond scan time. What this allows you to do is for processes that are very rapidly changing, maybe you're doing a test in a lab, maybe the application just has very rapid movement in the process variable. The 20 millisecond scan gives you very, very accurate and precise data that's recorded on the recorder. Custom screens, we talked about that. It does give you a lot of different ways to view the data on the paperless recorders, which makes the operation of whatever you're putting the recorder on very easy to visualize what's going on. The other neat feature of these recorders is the capability for you to add or subtract features or firmware from the recorder once you get it. And this is done by a credit system. So every single Honeywell recorder on the paperless side you get is loaded with all the different feature sets that you could possibly want in a graphic recorder. And you buy a certain amount of credits with the recorder to be able to unlock those firmware options that you want to use. So being able to change and add firmware options to the recorder in the field is very easy. You don't have to call and order a special board or a special chipset. Basically, it's just a code to unlock those credits as you see fit with your application needs. We're going to go into a little bit more about the credit option because I think this is a unique feature and something that you could possibly use in your plant. But that'll be here on a later slide. Some of the other things that these recorders bring to you is obviously easy configuration. The configuration of these recorders, like you use the touch panel display, and as you dive deeper into the configuration, at the very top of the display, they have what's called breadcrumbs to be able to quickly and easily take you forward and backward in the configuration by just a simple press of the button on the display, and allows very easy access to different areas in the recorder. So let's look at the Multitrend recorder here. We're going to do a little bit deeper dive into each one of these. So from data recording standpoint, we talked a little bit about you can have up to 48 analog inputs, which is quite a bit of analog inputs for a recorder. The data recording display allows you the capability to zoom in and out of data. So if you want to get down to that 20 millisecond scan and you want to see that data at that point, or if you want to zoom out all the way to a day or 2 days or even 7 days worth of data, you can do that as well from the front display. The other really neat option that you have on the data recording side is, let's say you have a specific event that happened in the recorder. Let's say there was an alarm for high temperature that happened, or let's say there was an operator that logged in and marked the chart. On the event side of the data recording, this gives you the capability to be able to click on that event, and it would take you right to that data on the trend chart. So if there was an excursion that happened on the trend chart, it allows you very quickly and easily to go in and search on that event to take you to that data versus being, scrolling forward and backward on the display to try to find that alarm. So there's a lot of hyperlinks within the recorder data recording that allows you to move around and get access to things that's going on in your process. The mark on the chart feature is a neat one because a lot of times your operators, when they were operating the piece of equipment, let's say for example it's at the end of a run, on the old circular charts or on the strip chart recorders that were paper driven, the operator would have to open the door, take his pen out or pencil, mark on the chart, and then put his initials on it, and then that would be carried with that, strip chart paper or circular chart paper to the filing cabinet. On the new way of doing things with the paperless recorders, the operator would actually press a button that would indicate mark on chart on the front of the recorder. He would type in his username, or he would type in his name, put in the date, and hit mark, and it would actually mark that chart with all the information that he put on right at the same time and date that he placed it on the recorder. What this does is, when the recorder stores all of the trend data, it also stores all of the event data. So as you take that trend data over to a PC to analyze it or print it out, that mark on the chart stays with the data that's been recorded. Easy view data and trends. We talked a little bit about this. The recorder can have bar graphs. It can have horizontal traces, vertical traces, and the capability for special graphics if you want to have a graphic of your particular application on the front of the recorder. Secure data recording. The data is all encrypted, and we needed to have that for several different reasons. One of the largest reasons is for the pharmaceutical industry. When they are trying to meet the 21 CFR Part 11 compliancy, the data need to be encrypted and protected in a certain fashion so that nobody could mess with the data and change the values. So that was one of the biggest parts of helping get this recorder to that level so that it could be used in the pharmaceutical industry and other industries that utilize the 21 CFR Part 11. Networking capability. All the recorders have this capability. It has an Ethernet and a RS-45 option for Modbus. It also, on the Ethernet connection, also allows you to connect the TrendView software directly to the recorder, so you can upload, download data, and you can also configure the recorder over the Ethernet if you wanted to. The DR graphic overview of the recorder, basically circular chart. You can actually have different displays on this one as well. It is a 12.1 inch color display. You can have 16 analog inputs. These recorders also have a USB port. So the USB port will allow you to upload and download all the data or configuration onto a USB memory stick so that you can walk it over to a PC and save the data to a PC if you do not have the Ethernet connection. The Multitrend recorder, this is the Multitrend GR. This is the recorder that you can have up to 16 analog inputs. Again, the same features on the data recording. You can zoom in, zoom out on the data. You can change the chart speed on the fly if you wanted to. Easy to view data. You can have the same type of bar graphs, digital values, horizontal, vertical trends, and much of the same capabilities as the larger recorder, but in a smaller footprint. So this one would be the smaller 5-inch display. Last but not least, we got the little guy here, the Easy Trend, 5.7-inch display, touchscreen, USB ports. Also has SD cards on these that I forgot to mention. The SD card would allow you to have another storage media on the front of the recorder in this little drop-down door here on the front, where you can have an SD card on the front of this that would actually store the trend data at either a scheduled interval to the SD card or on demand down to the SD card, so then you can remove it, take it to a PC, store the data, or view the data, whatever you needed to do with that. The recorders also have the analog but also digital capabilities. So if you did need to tie to alarms, you could have digital outputs that would ring bells, horns, whistles, whatever you needed to on the alarm side. And you can have some other discrete functionality based on different events that happen in the recorder tied to those digital outputs as well. Let's talk a little bit about the software. There's actually 3 software packages that's available for the recorder for you to be able to view the data, print it, export it. The Trend Viewer software is a software that actually comes with the recorder as a standard. You don't have to order it as a special option. But on this TrendView software that comes with the recorder, the only thing that you're able to do with that is display the values on a trend chart and print out the trend chart. So it's a very entry-level type software. It doesn't allow you to do any real-time communications or communications over Ethernet to grab that data. It's basically just a viewer. The next step up from that's Trend Manager. This is an option that you can upgrade to. On the Trend Manager software, it allows you to import graphs not only through the USB or an SD card, but also be able to import graphs through the Ethernet. So if you have an Ethernet hooked up to your PC, you can import the data and then view it as a trend chart and export it to a CSV file if you wanted to. It also has a batch mode. So if you are doing batch recording in the Paperless recorders, and you have a unique name or identifier to that batch, the Trend Manager software will import that batch, and with a quick click of the button on the batch, you can view that data and export it in a matter of seconds. The other feature of the Trend Manager, it does allow you to do a full configuration of the recorder. So if you wanted to configure the recorder offline on a PC, save it, and then export it to the recorder, you can do that as well. Last but not least is the Trend Server software. This has all the same feature set as the Trend Manager. It also allows you to do real, so you're able to hook up your Ethernet connection, import the data, and also log the data real time on the Trend Server as you're recording data on the recorder. There's other software packages that you can get. There is an IQ/OQ protocol assembler. This is a separate software package that allows you or your customer to generate a IQ documentation in order to validate the recorder for the particular application that it's being used for. This is a lot of times this is used for applications in the pharmaceutical industry. This is a process they go through with all instrumentation, and it's a validation process that takes a lot of time and a lot of money. And using the IQ/OQ protocol assembler allows you to import the data from the particular model and serial number of the instrument along with the configuration, and it builds a report that greatly reduces the amount of time that it takes to do a validation package. I think on most cases, customers are saying if it took 3 or 4 months in order to put together a validation package on an instrument, within a matter of a week or 2 weeks, they could have one of these reports pulled together, and greatly reduces the time of that process. TrendView OPC Historian is the next one. If you have a SCADA package that allows OPC communications, this is an interface that allows the recorder to pull in data, or the SCADA system to pull in data from the recorder using the OPC client software. Last but not least is the batch reporting tool. This is an enhanced software tool that allows you to pull in batch data from a batch run. Maybe you had a vacuum furnace that had a particular batch that ran, and you want to grab just that data. You don't want to grab all the data, but just the data that's pertinent to the part that you are heat treating. This allows you to have a tool that would sort through all the different batches that you ran in a file architecture, so you could pick it, print it, export it, whatever you need to do in a very quick manner. You can also create a secure PDF. So if you needed to export that data to a secure PDF with a signature, you could do that as well. We're going to spend just a little bit of time here going through the some of the configuration screens, just to give you a sample of what the configuration looks like and how easy it is to navigate through. But as you can see on the left here on this main menu screen, this is the first screen that pops up when you're going into the configuration. You can get into the configuration mode with touching the button up at the top left. You can view alarms. You can program your screens, program batches. You can stop and start recording. You can look at a message event that shows every single diagnostic or event that happened in the recorder, and it actually will export that data along with the trend graph. You can look at live process values if you just want to see a snapshot of all of your analog inputs, and then status, which would be the status of the recorder and any diagnostics that might be going along with that. Up at the very top of the screen, I talked about breadcrumbs. It has the edit setup screen, the charts. As you move into the configuration, these breadcrumbs are left at the top of the screen, and whichever screen that you're on is highlighted in yellow. But if you just click backwards, or if you click on one of these other breadcrumbs, it takes you one step back in the configuration, or eventually all the way out to the main display. So it allows you to quick and easily get out of the configuration, and you don't have to pull up the manual to see where you're at. The other great feature here is this little question button at the top right. What Honeywell did is whatever screen that you're on, the recorder knows where you're at in the configuration, and if you click on this little question button, it'll actually bring up the manual. Inside the manual is actually stored on the hard drive here in the recorder, and will access that page in the manual of wherever you're at, so that you can read up on maybe what you can do in alarms or what you can do in recording, and it gives you a lot of information at your fingertips. So you don't have to have a separate hardback paper copy of the manual in your tool case. You can just click on this question button and it gets you right to that part of the manual where you might need some help. We talked a little bit about easy to read screens. As you go up in recorder, so does the resolution. This is a sample screen of a trend moving left to right, and along with some digital inputs or digital values imposed on the screen. So it tells you exactly, this is carried out 2 decimal points, but it tells you exactly what that process value is, so you don't have to guess. There's a couple other displays that you can get as some standard displays. Digital values, bar graphs with a waterfall trend or left to right. We talked a little bit about how easy the screens are. We went through a little bit of that. This is a display for batch recording. So you can have up to 6 batches running concurrently. So let's say, for an example, you had 6 batch heat treat ovens, and each one of them had a unique part in those batch furnaces, and you wanted to start and stop a batch recording for each furnace and have them all running simultaneously. This recorder will allow you to have up to 6 of these running at the same time, and also be able to start and stop the batches independently. As you start and stop these, obviously it's recording all the data that's within that batch, and it also records things like the batch ID number, the lot number, description, comments. These are all values that the operator adds into the recorder before he starts the batch, and the recorder walks him through actually entering each one of those. Secure and reliable electronic data, again, SD card or USB. There's also an internal memory on each one of these. The larger recorder can go up to the 4 gigabyte. The smaller EasyTrend can go up to 2 gigabyte of internal memory storage, and it is a circular file storage. So eventually the oldest data will get overwritten by the newest data. But if you wanted to have the recorder to do scheduled exports, you can set that up as an event in the recorder, and then you'll never have to worry about overwriting the oldest data because you'll be pushing that data out to either the SD card or a USB key at scheduled interval configurations. Password security, you can have up to 50 users, 4 different levels per user, and passwording is critical when you're using it for applications like FDA or 21 CFR Part 11, and it offers that electronic signature. This is an example of the credit system that's inside of the recorder. So as I was talking earlier, each one of these recorders has the availability of all of the different firmware options with the recorder. And as you can see on the right-hand side, each one of these firmware options has a credit associated with it. And when you buy the recorder, you buy it with a certain amount of credits that you think you're going to want to use. So if it's 10 credits, you can maybe choose fast scan and totalization or custom screens and events or scripting. So you can move these credits around and you actually either enable them or disable them in the configuration based on the firmware options that you want to use. You can get a recorder that has the number of credits that would accommodate all of these if you wanted to. There are some applications where customers will order a recorder. They think that they need 10 credits, but later on they see some other options where they might want to have 20. You can actually call us. We can get a special code that we can put into the recorder, and then it will unlock those other firmware credits for you. So it's very easy to be able to enable and disable certain options in the recorder if you wanted to in the field. Let's talk about some applications real quick. Maybe we'll spend about 5 minutes or so on these just to kind of give you some different applications where these recorders would be typically used in. Ovens, furnaces, environmental chambers, boilers, sterilizers, automotive paint spray booths, a lot of different options here. Let's go through a couple of these real quick. One of the applications that we get involved with on a pretty regular basis at Loy Instrument is when the customer has either a PLC or a Honeywell HC900 that has Modbus master communications. What we can do, instead of tying all of the analog inputs hardwired into the recorder, we can just simply hook up an Ethernet communication from the recorder to the PLC or the HC900 and be able to transfer the analog inputs from the PLC to the recorder and record it as if it was using hardwired inputs to the back of the recorder. This greatly reduces the amount of wiring that you have to hook up to the back of the recorder, and it just makes it a nice, easy access point there in order to grab that data. The other application that we've been getting into quite a bit recently is customers that have either tank farms or they have other applications where running wires all the way out to the application to gather the data is tough, or it has explosion-proof requirements where running conduit all the way out to those applications is cost prohibitive. In those applications, we have wireless transmitters that can transmit temperature, pressure, flow, level, and wirelessly transmit those back through a gateway to the recorder and have the recorder gather that data for the plant. This wireless technology would be something that we get into at a later date in the training, but basically creates a mesh topology over the top of the plant and allows best access for those data points back to the recorder. Flow applications, this is kind of a no-brainer. Any type of application that has a transmitter with flow It can be a mag meter, an ultrasonic meter, a DP transmitter, a lot of different other types of metering like pulse inputs or pulse transmitters. It also does square root extraction. These would be for applications, where you have to monitor and be able to record the flow in and out of a process. A lot of the times, the transmitters out in the field already have a square root extraction algorithm inside of the transmitter head, but for application that doesn't, the recorder does have the built-in math capability in order to do square root extraction. Also totalization, so it has math capabilities to totalize those flows as needed and provide that on a data trend chart as well. Lab monitoring, obviously there's a lot of applications that you might get into where you have a lab that you might have a small lab oven, or you might want to record the relative humidity in a oven or even a room to be able to put onto the recorder to monitor when tests are being done inside that lab. Alarm email notifications. So let's say, for example, there was an engineer or a tech that was working in the lab. He had a test running, but he needed to go to another part of the plant. When that test is done, he can have an email set up on alarm so that it would notify them when their particular test is completed. Sterilization processes. Again, there's a ton of different math capabilities in the recorder to accommodate the sterilization process. There is a FO and a PO sterilization calculation, which can be used as part of the sterilization process. And obviously, from a batch standpoint, you can have the start temperature, the Z factor, the cooling time, and the completion value all recorded in a batch that can be taken out of the recorder and put onto a PC for later retrieval. The heat treating industry, obviously in the Rust Belt here, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, Illinois, we use a ton of these recorders in the heat treat industry. The big thing for the heat treat industry is compliance to meet AMS 2750 or NADCAP requirements, which must have the recording on the process when they're heat treating the equipment. The recorder actually meets those requirements, and at a later time we can actually go through each one of those and tell you specifically how it meets those requirements. But we use these in a ton of different aerospace heat treat facilities, not only with just trending, but also batch recording as well. Vacuum furnace monitoring. This is another application in the heat treat industry where we use a ton of these recorders. Again, AMS 2750. You can have the recorder not only work as a AMS 2750 process recorder, where you're monitoring thermocouple usage and things of that nature, but you can also have it as a TUS recorder, which a temperature uniformity survey recorder, where you can actually hook up the recorder to different locations within the vacuum furnace and obtain a uniformity survey with the recorder as well. Batch recording, we talked about that. This is a strong feature set of the recorder. Allows you to do batch export as well to a CSV file. But this is, when you have one of these recorders on a process where you're recording data, 24/7, that's a lot of data to accumulate in the recorder. And to be able to, very quickly and easily do a batch recording so you can find that data very quickly is something very important on the batch recording. AMS 2750D, we talked about that along with the NADCAP. Again, these are two areas. If you're in a heat treat facility, they're probably adhering to one of these, especially if they're doing anything with the aerospace industry. Material moving is another thing you could use these recorders on. You can actually monitor the belt speed if you wanted to on a process. You can have a count, with some type of sensor on this belt that actually counts pulses as this belt's moving. You can totalize accumulated runtime if you wanted to on the belt. Barcode input for identification of material, and then we talked about the alarms and email alarms and alert personnel on abnormal conditions. But it doesn't need to be just batch type process values with temperatures. It can be digital values with belts and things of that nature. Incinerator, we're just wrapping up here, but incinerators is another big area that we do a lot in, and it doesn't matter what industry. It can be glass, it can be steel, it can be automotive assembly, paint lines, but anywhere where they need to monitor the temperatures of the incinerator to make sure that it meets all the emissions requirements and airflows. In these recorders, you can have a rolling average, which would be part of the CEM calculation, and totalizers and alarms and event messages to indicate if the incinerator is up to temperature so they can start running their process. But this is the one area where most plants, if they're doing any type of incineration, usually has a graphic recorder or paper recorder on that process so they can provide that information to the EPA. Regulatory compliance, obviously, we talked about the pharmaceutical industry with 21 CFR Part 11. This recorder gives you great audit trails. It logs all the information. If an operator logs into the recorder, logs out of the recorder, it keeps a trail of all the power down and power up messages and things of that nature. And within the regulatory applications and pharmaceutical and chemicals and stuff like that, they look for all of that particular information. So they don't just look for the recording of the trend chart, but they want to see anything else that had happened with that recorder during the process. So in summary, those are a couple of applications. Obviously, they're not all the applications, but in summary, these recorders will allow plant personnel or your customers to be able to very quickly access data for either one, quality control, compliance, maybe it'd be customer information that they want to see based on a part being heat treated or a particular part that was built for the customer. And it gives the operators also a great visual into the process. And as we all know, there's operators these days in the plants that are operating several applications at one time, and it's great to give them that visualization or that graphic to be able to very quickly interpret what's going on with the process with very little training. So with that, I know we ran a little bit longer again today. I think from now on, I'm just going to start saying it's an hour. But I really appreciate everybody's time. We will be sending an update for future Tech Tuesday training sessions. The next one we have next Tuesday is going to be on pH. We're going to talk about what is pH, how is it measured, and then talk a little bit about a product called Turtle Tough from Australia that offers a great pH sensor for very, very harsh applications that you might have out in your plant, and basically increasing the life of your pH probe by 10 times. So that might be one that you might want to log in and listen to if you have any applications where you have pH measurement. Then the last class that I have scheduled on the list is Schubert and Sulzer, which is a valve manufacturer that Loy Instrument distributes. And that valve is from Germany. It's a very tough, very precise control valve, and it has a sliding gate valve mechanism in it, which allows for very tight process control, and might be something that you want to log into. So with that, appreciate everybody's time today, and I will be sending out a quick link on this training session today that will link you into our YouTube page, and please feel free to access that later on and watch the recording. So with that, have a great day, great rest of your week, and we'll catch up with you later.